Hi guys, in this lesson we're going to do a lot of properties. We're going to prove that a quadrilateral, now if you know what a quadrilateral is, it's got four sides, doesn't matter what shape, as long as the four sides are connected, we call it a quadrilateral. But now we've got very specific quadrilaterals, like a parallelogram, a rectangle, a rhombus, a kite, lots of them. And you need to know the properties of these. Now I'm going to go through each one slowly, and then we're going to do an example or two. But for me to just read through properties is easy. You need to go and study those properties. It's much easier than it sounds. Before we start with any one of them, if you draw the little sketch of whatever they're talking about, let's just go to the first one. Maybe it's easier to explain. If they talk about a parallelogram and you draw a very rough parallelogram, now I prefer to even draw it more skew. I prefer to draw it really skew like that, very skew. Because if I do that, I can easily read off the properties. For instance, I can see if I draw that diagonal there, that diagonal does not bisect the angles, which is one of the properties of some other quadrilaterals. If I draw this diagonal, then it goes right in the middle of those diagonals. So the one long diagonal does bisect the two opposite angles, but that's not a property because it's only the one. So we can actually read off the properties easily if you draw it kind of to scale. So if they talk about a parallelogram, go and draw it. Now, the basic parallelogram, the basic definition of a parallelogram is that both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So that is the definition which makes it a parallelogram. But now there's lots of properties. If you look at that, they say two pairs of opposite sides equal. So now you can go and tick equal, equal. Just be careful. You can't use two ticks if you already have two ticks on another piece of the sketch. Also, this one I'm going to do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4 because it's opposite sides, but I already have 3 dots there and there because the opposite angles are equal and the diagonals bisect. There you can see the diagonals cut one another in half. It's ticked on your parallelogram already. So all you can do now is to actually learn the sketch. And if you've drawn the sketch, you can actually find these ticks and things yourself from the sketch. So you need to read through this carefully, slowly. Make sure that you understand that the parallelogram is the base of all the other quadrilaterals. So you'll see as we go along, if you know the parallelogram properties, in other words, all of these properties, if you know all of them and you can immediately say opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal, that's very easy to remember. There are only sides and angles. Opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal. The diagonals, if I draw them, it's from corner to corner, they cut one another in half. So that's very easy to remember. Now that is the basis of all your next figures. So if we now look at a rectangle, it is actually a parallelogram, but all angles are 90 degrees. So it's just as the parallelogram, all they did, they took it and they put it straight up. So that is what a rectangle is. So if I asked you now the properties of a rectangle, you'll just say, oh, it's exactly the same as a parallelogram. You'll see the first property. It's exactly the same as a parallelogram. The only difference, the diagonals are now equal in length and the interior angles are right angles. In other words, 90 degrees. So there's only two things that are different. The diagonals of a parallelogram also bisect one another, but these, because I put the parallelogram straight up, they are now also equal, the diagonals. So those are properties of a rectangle. Then a rhombus. A rhombus actually is a parallelogram with all sides equal. That's maybe the easiest way to describe it. So that's the definition. It's a parallelogram with equal sides. So all the properties, as it says there, all the properties of a parallelogram is also the properties of a rhombus. But here's a very, very important one. The diagonals bisect at right angles. That means 90 degrees. And I'm going to put a big NB here. A big NB. That property there is one that they test all the time. If they ask you about a rhombus, you can be very sure they're going to want you to know that the diagonals bisect one another at 90-degree angle. So they don't just bisect one another like the parallelogram, they bisect one another at 90 degrees. Now, the minute I say that, it means they are perpendicular. So immediately in the back of your head, the previous lessons we had should recall a formula. M1 times M2 is equal to -1. Different directions, so they need to be flipped around, inverses of one another. One needs to be a plus and one needs to be a minus, if they do talk about a rhombus diagonals. And then the diagonals also bisect the opposite angles, and all sides are equal in length. So it's just as a parallelogram, but it's now just all sides equal. And because we're making all sides equal, we have the diagonals that bisect at 90-degree angles. Now, when we get now to the square, you'll see it's just the same. A square, again, is just the same as a rectangle, but with equal sides. Now, because the sides are equal, it's the rectangle just squashed. So, and you remember a rectangle is actually a parallelogram, just put up straight. So it's all the properties of a parallelogram. Now, it's the rectangle. What has happened to that? You just made all the sides equal, and now it forms a square. All sides are equal. All sides are equal. Just make sure that. And the diagonals bisect at right angles, 90 degrees. I'm going to make another NB here, NB. Because normally when they talk about a square, except for the sides that are all equal, they normally test that you know the diagonals bisect at 90-degree angles. And also the diagonals bisect the interior angles. But again, as I say, if you draw a long flat rectangle, you will clearly see the diagonals bisect one another, but it does not bisect the angles. If you draw a nice square, you'll see that the diagonals do bisect the angles, and they bisect one another at 90 degrees. Good. A kite, I'm sure all of you know a kite. A kite is what we used to play with. There's a few properties on a kite. There's a kite, two pairs of adjacent sides equal. So this one is a little bit different from all the others. All the others had opposite sides equal, opposite sides parallel. A kite has got two adjacent, that means two sides that touch one another, and the bottom two sides that touch one another, those sides are equal. It's already ticked on your graph. You see, I say always tick it off. If they haven't ticked it, they will not tick it for you. If they talk about a kite, you need to go and draw your own kite, and you need to tick what you know about it. Now, what is the properties? Two pairs of sides are equal, adjacent pairs are equal in length. That is what we saw just now. That's also the property. The longer diagonal bisects the opposite angles. So there you can see it's marked with two dots, and here it's marked with two crosses. Only the long diagonal bisects the angles. Now you see we're going to use it later on. Even in matric, we use it a lot in different analytical problems. So if you know the properties now well enough, and you get to matric, it will just be very easy to do the problems on that. And then the last one, let's just quickly go back. We already said the longer diagonal bisect the angles. Also, the longer diagonal bisect the other diagonal. The longer one bisects the other diagonal. And again, you can actually see it very clearly on a kite. The diagonals bisect at right angles. In other words, at 90 degrees. So the square, the rhombus, and the kite, their diagonals bisect at 90 degrees. And they love to ask that in tests and exams, because you need to know that property very well. Good. The last one is a trapezium. Easiest one of all. A trapezium has got only one property. One pair of opposite sides are parallel. It doesn't matter how long they are, how short they are. Only one property, one definition. One pair of opposite sides are parallel. Easy to remember. Parallel. Good. Now, what do we do with all that information? Firstly, you need to go and study that information. You cannot, especially when you now practice these examples, you cannot every time go back and go check what the properties are, because that does not help for what it's supposed to help. You're supposed to, when you get a problem and they talk about parallelogram, you need to immediately go to your parallelogram, tick off, oh, that means parallel sides, that means parallel sides, that means equal sides, equal sides, equal. It will not take you long. It also means the diagonals bisect one another. So you can also tick that if you want. I'm not going to tick because there's already a lot of ticks, but it also means the diagonals bisect one another, but not the angles, remember? So those are the basic properties and the definition of a parallelogram. So once you've ticked it on your sketch, if they haven't drawn it for you, you draw it. Now in this case, they say, show that PQRS is a parallelogram. Oh gosh, they did not tell me yet it is a parallelogram. So all these green things that I put on there is what I need to check. Now again, there are lots of different ways to do specifically analytical geometry. Because the definition of a parallelogram is that both pairs of opposite sides must be parallel. How will we know that? We work out the gradient of that line and the gradient of that line. If they're equal, they are equal. Then the lines are parallel. We work out the gradient of this line and the gradient of that line. If the two gradients are equal, then the lines will be parallel. Or we can just check one of the properties. And the easiest way, I'm going to write it here. Check if diagonals bisect. Because if the diagonals bisect one another, I do know it is a parallelogram. Then it can't be, it can be any other thing as well, but remember they only asked me a parallelogram. If it's one of the others, I need to check angles or equal sides. For a parallelogram, I can just check if the diagonals bisect. So again, you could have worked out all the gradients and check if they are parallel, and they are parallel. Both pairs must be parallel. That would be a lot of work. Or you can just work out the midpoint of both those diagonals, so one sum each. And if it's the same point, you know that the diagonals bisect. So I'm going to choose the shortest method. I'm going to find the midpoint of, let's first do PR. PR. Remember, midpoint is X. Now I'm going to do this XP plus XR over 2. And I'm going to do the same with the Y. YP plus YR over 2. Then I don't have to number my coordinates x1, x2, and y1, y2. I can just use the letters. So if I work it out, x of p is minus 3, x of r is plus 10 over 2, y of p is 2, y of r is minus 1 over 2. I hope you saw, sometimes when I just replace a positive figure, I don't put it in a bracket necessarily. Because by now we've done so many substitution sums, you should have recognized and realized by now, if you only substitute the plus value, it doesn't really have to be in a bracket. We just did the brackets in the beginning all the time to make sure you don't make a silly mistake. But if there's a minus value like here, you do need to put it in a bracket. So if I work this out, 10 minus 3 is 7 over 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1/2. Let's just check our sketch and see if it's possible. 7 over 2 is actually 3.5. 3.5 and a half, that point M. That looks possible for this line. It looks like it could be 3.5 here, and it could be a half there. Good. Now I must also find the midpoint of line QS. So I'm going to do the same formula. X of Q plus X of S over 2. Y of Q plus y of s over 2. And if I fill it in, x of q is 3 plus 4 over 2. Y of q is 6 minus 5. It's actually plus minus 5. I skipped a step over 2, which you can do if you feel comfortable with this, and it gives you a half. Therefore, the midpoint of PR is equal to the midpoint of QS, and therefore you can just now write down the diagonals bisect, and then the final answer you'll just now write down, therefore it is a parallelogram. Good. So we use the properties of all these quadrilaterals in order to prove whatever the question is asking us. Good. So you're going to go and redo this. And after you've redone it, you can check. I'm just going to there underline. Diagonals have to bisect. That is one way. Remember, I'm just going to write here. or prove QR parallel to PS and PQ parallel to RS. And the gradients must be the same. So if you wanted to rather go that way, you could have, but can you see it's a much longer way to do? But as I say, there's always more than one way, and there's the final answer. So you can see we have proven it this way. Good. Last example. Determine the equation of EG. Now let's just go there to EG. That line is the line EG. Now if they ask me to determine the equation of a line, I need to know the formula for a line. But you remember I know two formulae. Y is equal to mx plus c, or the y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So I need to know which one I'm going to choose. They tell me this is a rhombus. Now in this case, they are telling me this is a rhombus. So I can really easily go make them parallel. And remember, the property of a rhombus is that all the sides are equal. And I also know that the diagonals bisect one another at 90 degrees. So I can immediately go and fill in that the diagonals bisect at 90 degrees. Now they asked me to determine the equation of EG. If you look at E and G, there's nothing given, absolutely nothing. Not even one piece of nothing. But what is EG doing? EG is crossing, in fact, it's bisecting the line DF, because I know that's one of the properties of a rhombus. So if I can find the midpoint of DF, do you agree with me? It would also be the midpoint of EG, because they told me in this case it is a rhombus. Remember, there's two types of questions. They either ask you to prove it's a rhombus, parallelogram, etc., or they tell you it's a rhombus, parallelogram, etc., and then they ask you questions on that. So make sure that you know the difference between the two. If they ask you to prove, then you must prove a property. You know nothing. You must prove a property. If they tell you it's a rhombus, you know all the properties, and you can go and tick all of them. You also know that the diagonals bisect one another. And because the diagonals are the same length, you can tick them all with the same tick, because they are the same length, another property of a rhombus, and they bisect one another at 90 degrees. So if I can find the midpoint of DF, which is x of d plus x of f over 2, y of d plus y of f over 2. And if I fill it in here, x of d is minus 1 plus 3 over 2. Y of d is minus 1 plus 5 over 2. And that gives me the point, the midpoint of DF is 2 over 2 is 1. 5 minus 1 is 4 over 2, which is just 2. Let's just check on your sketch if it looks possible. If you look at this point M there, it looks as if it could be a 1 for x and a 2 for y. If it was the other way around, I know that I made a mistake. And then you go look for your mistake. Good. Now at least I've got a point. Is one thing enough to find a straight line equation? No, because there's either an M and a C, or there's an M and another point. I, at this moment, only have a point on the line. I do not have anything else. But do you also agree? What did you mark here in the middle? These lines are perpendicular. So if I can find the small m gradient of DF, then I know that line is perpendicular to EG. Then I can find the gradient of EG. And then I've got two pieces of information. I've got the point M then, and I've got the gradient. That's all I need, the gradient and a point, as you can recall one of the previous lessons. So I need to find the gradient of DF. Gradient is y of d minus y of f over x of d minus x of f. Now you'll see if I use the f and the d and instead of 1 and 2, it just makes it easy, because if I fill it in now, I'm going to make all my empty brackets. If I fill it in, the y of d is minus 1, minus the y of f is 5. The x of d is also minus 1, x of f is 3, and that gives me minus 6 over minus 4, which gives me 3 over 2, plus 3 over 2. Let's check if we're right. My EDF is going in a straight up direction. That means it needs a positive gradient. And I do have a positive gradient, so it seems I'm on the right track. But remember, that is the gradient of DF. So if I now want the gradient of EG, it should be minus 2/3. Therefore, where do I get that from? This one was plus 3 over 2. Perpendicular means flip the fraction around and change the sign. And there you have it. Now I have, let's see what I have. Now I have two things, a point and the gradient. And now I know which formula I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the easy formula. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And I'm going to quickly do substitution, all my empty brackets for the substitution. And I'm just going to read y1. Remember which point we're going to use? That point there. The y was a 2. The m we just now find was minus 2/3. And the x was a 1. Just be very careful. If I'm working with line EG, I need to only use points and data on EG. I can't grab any of the other points because that has got nothing to do with EG. So that's why I used this point there, 1 and 2, which was the midpoint. Maybe you should make a capital letter like that. I tend to make them round as well. But we need to see the difference between a capital M, which stands for midpoint, and a small m that stands for gradient. Now I must just simplify. And I must bring the 2 over. So it's plus 2 plus 2/3 is 2 and 2/3. I prefer to leave it as a mixed number because I can go and check. There where the graph cuts the y-axis, it is a little bit above the m. Remember the my was 2. So it's most probable that the y-intercept of this orange line of mine is 2 and 2/3. So hopefully I'm on the right track. Hopefully we did it correctly. And therefore you're going to now go and redo it all on your own. Make ticks on the sketches. The minute they tell you something is a rhombus or parallelogram, go and tick it, tick everything you know, because then you can use that information. There's the midpoint that we worked out. There is the gradient we worked out. And then we swapped it around, and there is the final answer. And as you can see, all the previous information that we learned, we're applying on one problem, which is very easy. As long as you know each bit separately on its own, as long as you know the properties of all these quadrilaterals. So go, draw the quadrilaterals on a clean sheet of paper, see which information you can write down on that quadrilateral, and do it a few times until you know all the properties of by hand. You're going to use it a lot. So once you've learned it, if you know it once, you know it forever. Good luck. See you next time.